Okay, I'm back with another episode of Vancouver Subculture Living, Van Sub Life. I'm Reno P, and I'm here in the Dunbar area of Vancouver with my good friend Max Serpa. How's it going, Max?
Good. Thanks for having me. How's it going with you?
Lots of things. Getting this podcast off the ground. It's a busy time. Like working every day and scheduling whatever. It's hectic. So, but how about yourself though? How's living here?
Living here. Living here is good. Living in Vancouver. It can be tough depending on the circumstance, but I've found a circumstance for myself that I quite like.
It's working out for you here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, in terms of just I guess like working or the area you live in, the people around you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the specific area has never been a giant point of concern. I'm a little bit more on the introverted end, so I don't spend too much time in public space. But
which is kind of funny because you think Vancouver is kind of like hustle bustle, lots of people everywhere interacting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like for me, I was just born in Metro Vancouver, and so that's kind of why I'm here still.
Oh, that's true. I mean, again, like I always say in the other episodes, Metro Vancouver, super vague.
Oh yeah.
So your origin started in New Westminster?
Burnaby.
Yeah. Okay. And then you. Okay, so let's go back to when you were 0. Okay, so you were born in Burnaby, in like some kind of hospital over there.
Yes.
Okay, I imagine. And then you grew up in Burnaby as well.
Kind of a mix between Burnaby and Westminster.
Okay, so in terms of schooling, you mean?
Yes.
So where did you go for elementary, if I may ask?
For elementary school, I went to a Christian school. It was John Knox.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
That was it was. For those listeners, I mean, I've known Max for more than half my life now at this point of recording.
I'm getting old.
Yeah, but I remember that John Knox. Yeah, that was okay. And then you went to high school. No, wait, did you? So how many until what grade were you at John Knox?
So I went to kindergarten at Herbert Spencer in East, and then I went to John Knox from grades 1 through 7.
1 to 7. That's great. John Knox is in Burnaby.
Gosh,
I don't actually remember.
I think it's in Burnaby.
It's on that weird border, right?
Geography's never been my strong point.
Even though we did take geography 12 together, I believe, or was it 11?
Hey, I audited it. Okay.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, you were there, and I was there, and a couple of other people there. So yeah, and then we met through a mutual friend, John.
Yes.
Shout out to John. I hope you're doing well. If you ever hear this. So we met through him, and then together we went to the same high school, right?
That's right.
And BSS. New Westminster Secondary School.
Yeah.
Met a lot of people. Obviously, we knew each other. We joined the band program. We were together for 5 years, I guess, 8 to 12. Is that 5 years?
Yeah.
And then went to university. But before that, how was a high school life for you? I mean, I was there with you for quite a bit. But your experience in general with education growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of high school. I mean, gosh.
You were in the IB program, the International Baccalaureate?
Like, partially. I felt a lot of pressure in my family environment to do the, be intelligent and succeed at school thing, and that's what kind of pushed me there, but I was never really a fan of it. So, typical school experience for kids, what can I say?
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that. Ultimately wasn't a big fan of it.
The whole high school thing?
Yeah, high school in general. Academic space, social space wasn't really my thing.
In terms of the way it was just constructed, or?
I don't want to make general commentary on that because, other people have positive experiences. But,
totally.
For me, I guess, everyone had their social groups and stuff like that. We had
their
our
cliques.
Group.
Exactly. Good friends so that we, I still see today. I don't know about you, but
yeah, totally.
But yeah, they're still around.
Yeah. But I mean, I also feel that there's lots of different social groups. In high school, high school can be brutal sometimes.
I mean,
inclusion.
Yeah, it wasn't even just our school. It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I imagine.
But I mean, at the same time, I'm speaking from the perspective of myself as a high schooler. And
no, that's exactly what this podcast is about. It's about your perspective.
Past that?
Yeah.
It's a decade past that. Wow.
I don't want to think about it that way, but yeah, it has been. So like not the best time in high school.
Yeah,
but,
for my adolescent self, certainly not.
Okay. Yeah. And then so shortly after that, we went to the same university.
Yeah.
Simon Fraser.
Yes.
Okay. And how was that transition for you?
That was a more positive experience for me.
Okay.
So university was a cool environment. I mean, for one, I got to study things that I was actually into. And then for two, it was cool because you have that element of going into areas that you're choosing. I mean, mileage may vary, but
yes.
Generally speaking, people who are in that class also have an interest in it.
Yeah, it's a gathering of the minds,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it definitely, when you go to university, you go there for your goals, right? Obviously, a lot of people have conception how you have to go to university to get some kind of high-paying career out of it, some kind of specialized job, just for the credential, right?
Yeah.
Was that what it was like for you?
You know what? When so for me, I've always had this angle of like social justice or wanting to do good things in the world. I'd say it's probably related to like growing up in school environments that I wasn't really a big fan of.
Yeah.
And then also probably the details are not for this conversation, but
fair enough.
Like family dynamics, etc., social dynamics in my life outside of school like weren't super hot when I was young, you know. So that I think just the collective experience really put me on this like, hey, you know, let's make a positive impact in the world sort of bent or angle on things.
Yeah, I mean, your life kind of shapes, you know, your experiences shape how you grow and who you are, right?
100%. So at the end of high school, in high school, I had mostly been involved in like sciences, physical sciences like biology, chemistry, etc. And so from there, I mean, the go-to for someone who wants to make a positive difference is to become a doctor. Like, I know that's what you're shooting for yourself.
Yeah, still shooting for that. We're working on that.
Cool. So
it's like a, I guess not more tangible, but it's like one of, I guess, easier to see ways. Well, not necessarily. It's kind of hard to put it.
Yeah, I agree. But like, it has that certain social position.
Yeah, it has that connotation where doctors generally help people.
Exactly. And especially if you've been doing well in sciences, as I was, despite my not being a giant fan of school,
right.
It's a very obvious go-to. For me, though, the question that came up is, I was like, wow, you know, in Vancouver, people still die of tuberculosis. And
right.
Why is that? It's not for lack of medical care, it's for lack of access to medical care. And that's a social issue.
It is, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So, yeah, that kind of got me thinking of social science. I started off at SFU taking criminology, and I eventually transitioned to sociology.
Really?
And, yeah.
I thought you actually dived right into sociology.
Well, I mean, they're both social sciences, so they have some relationship with each other.
Right, some overlap.
Whereas sociology covers everything under the sun when it comes to social phenomena. Criminology is kind of like, it's focused about the criminal justice system. And
the law.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it takes that angle to it, for sure.
Okay. And, yeah, I mean, university was a blast. Were you one of those hardworking students?
You know, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I went to university because I was able to do things that I genuinely cared about. And so when I took classes that I was really into, I did really well. Like, there was a class that I took near the end of my bachelor's degree that I was like so into. It was kind of a capstone for everything that...
Well, which class was it? Like, what's the subject matter?
It was called Self-Psychology and Education.
Self-Psychology and Education.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're in that faculty, you should look that up.
That's in the Faculty of Education.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it has... Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's looked at as one of the more challenging courses in there. But
for the educational stream?
Yeah, exactly. But for me, the reason why it was so interesting is because I developed a strong interest in university of looking at how people are constructed on an individual level depending on their historical circumstance. And this class was basically about that. So it served as kind of a capstone to my bachelor's degree. And I did super well in it because I was super into it.
That makes sense. I mean, when you really, I guess, driven or passionate towards the subject matter, then you're able to excel.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, I find that as well, too. It's if you're really engaged, then you're engaged. And
Totally. And
you should do well.
On the flip side, and I'm happy to say that I've since taken this course and done well in it, but near the start of my bachelor's degree, I took macroeconomics and
Macro econ.
Yeah.
And micro?
I didn't take micro.
Okay, I mean,
I've taken it since then in different forms, but
okay.
Not at the time. But yeah, economics has this kind of central component to it of looking at the rational actor, so the like self-interested person.
The rational actor?
That's what it's called in the discipline.
Okay.
Pardon me. So that within economics, this quote rational actor unquote is a person who looks at the world and looks at their own self-interest and basically wants to accumulate as much physical stuff or as much monetarily valued stuff as is possible.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense within that context.
Exactly, and this is what economics as a discipline is based off of, is people trying to accumulate things for themselves or accumulate value as is defined by the market economy. Mm-hmm. So basically when I took this class, I was like, that's total BS. And I couldn't compel myself to do any work for it.
Yeah, because it wasn't like, it was against what you firmly stand for or believe.
Yeah, and I mean, like...
That's to say you can't do well.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
And I mean, again, like, since then, I did do well in the class because I was like, I'll just bite the bullet and accept the ideological tenet that it's proposing.
Yeah, you're doing the work for the sake of the grade, I guess, at that point.
Exactly, yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, like, going past university now, like, when I look back on it, it's more of about the pursuit of education. I think that's what university really is, and they don't really advertise nor tell you that. I thought it would just be a stepping stone for you, but no, it's you go there to learn. If you want to go find trades, you can go to BCIT, which you did eventually.
I did, yeah. So basically, when I was at SFU, I found that there was kind of a dual component there of what you were just talking about career versus learning. And I mean, the reality in the academic context is that courses are structured in a particular way. They're presenting a certain pool of knowledge, and you need to demonstrate that you have absorbed this knowledge. So
basically, memorize this, then regurgitate it.
Exactly. And to be honest, like at the undergraduate level, even though it's university, that's what you're doing. It's only really once you get to master's or PhD that you're coming up with your own ideas.
Yep, so, I agree completely.
So yeah, there is still that element of like you're learning, but you're learning whatever school environment you're in. I'd say that there's maybe a difference to look at between like learning and creatively engaging, and university was learning, or that's how the environment is set up.
Right, and I do think that is the case, especially with the first and second and some of the third year courses. It's not really until you get to like the upper level, like really higher level, like where you get the juicy stuff, where you can kind of go on and do your own things.
Totally, and I think that like if you're lucky enough to be in a class such as that self-psychology and education one that I was in, where you were very aligned with the subject matter being presented, then you can exercise that creativity because you're just gobbling up the material that it's presenting, Yeah,
and utilizing it in some way, right?
Exactly. But at the undergraduate level, regardless if you're doing a trade school or an academic program, there's definitely that like learn what is being taught to you and then say just exactly that.
Which is, again, it's just like it's school. Like you're just paying for it even more, especially if you're international.
Yeah,
you really pay the price for it.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, when you think about it in that way, it's just accreditation that you pay a lot of money for.
Yeah. And I mean, an anecdote to share about that. So you're sharing that from the perspective of seeing tuition prices for schools that are located here in Canada.
Or post-secondary, but I hear that in high school, if you're also foreign student, you do have to pay as well, if I'm not mistaken.
That makes sense to me. I don't know it for certain.
Yeah, it was new to me. It was brought up, so...
Nonetheless, that's in the context of Canada,
right,
where education, whether it's secondary or post-secondary, is subsidized. So secondary education is free for local people to go to.
Right.
Post-secondary education costs money, but
tuition.
It's still highly subsidized.
Really?
Yeah. Tuition costs have gone up, of course, since I was in school. But at the time, if I was being, I guess, conservative with the number of courses I was taking, I could finish a degree having paid about $30,000
on average.
The full cost of a bachelor's degree at the time was $150,000.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
$150,000 for a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
When we were going to school?
Yes.
When you factor in
all the costs of like the university.
Oh, okay, because like we paid like $30,000 or so,
exactly,
but it was subsidized.
Exactly.
Oh.
So this, to my knowledge, is the philosophy behind why international students pay more.
It's to make up the costs.
Yeah, because they're not paying any taxes, essentially. And they're presumably just like coming, getting the education, and going back to their country. So it's not like they're actually contributing anything to the local economy afterwards.
Right. So it's not actually like you getting more money out of it. It's just money you're trying to cover your costs with.
Sorry, rephrase that maybe?
So you think that charging international students from outside the country, gouging them would be a way of making money for the institution, but rather...
And it is, definitely, but...
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I thought it was just a way to make up for the subsidized
I mean,
costs of locals.
If you think about it, okay, this is me not having gone over the books for a university or anything like that, but just like thinking about it. So if you look at a university and you look at the costs that go into maintaining it, and you look at the money that they have coming in, I imagine that is designed so that local people can go to it. It's designed so that the books balance with local people attending.
Oh.
Right? I imagine. I could be wrong. So,
I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. So when an international student comes, of course, like for the institution to run, they technically wouldn't have to pay more, but it's attractive for them to the institution because they get more money.
There's an incentive there to...
Exactly. But there is the rationale justifying it, that they're not actually a citizen of the country. They're not contributing to taxes.
So two sides of a coin, right?
Yeah, similar. Beyond that, I'm not sure how much I can say without actually like hardcore looking at the books. And seeing
I mean, again, it's a perspective, right? I mean, we may never know the truth until I go find someone and talk about it who's like in there. I don't know. Who knows what the future holds?
And I mean, gosh, like it's a public institution, so I'm pretty sure if either of us wanted to, we could probably go look up the finances. You know?
Oh, interesting.
Typically, this is the case with public institutions. Again,
they're open. To the records would
exactly. Yeah, I haven't looked at the specifics again, but usually you can. Like before I was looking at those for the city of Vancouver, and you can actually see what different staff are paid depending on their role. So for a private company, you'd never get to find that out.
Of course not.
Some ins, but yeah, for public stuff, typically.
Oh, well, I mean, if I were ever curious enough to do so, I mean, I could go do that.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you know, that's a conversation for a different time, I guess. Yeah. So, moving on. So you finished your degree at SFU, Simon Fraser.
Yeah.
With a degree in...
By the end of it all, it was a degree in sociology, counseling, and dialogue.
Is that like the sociology stream, or is it like you had 3 different degrees?
Well, it was a major and 2 minors. So it was a major in sociology, and so the full name of the minor was a minor in counseling and human development, and then the other minor was a minor in dialogue and communication.
And even so counseling and... Wait, what was the other one? Sorry, it's just like there's so many credentials in one paper, I imagine.
There's a lot. This is like when you're done with school, you just have this piece of paper like, I'm so impressive. But just more briefly, sociology, counseling, and dialogue.
And dialogue. Yep. That was the one. Okay, so sociology. I mean, I don't know how much time we have to talk about sociology and like what it really means, but do you think you could give a quick... I don't even want to say quick because there's so many layers to it, right?
It's the study of society.
Okay.
And that's it.
So we just leave it. Okay, let's just leave that for now.
I'll expand it just a little bit.
Okay, by all means.
Study of society is always mediated by the ideology or the way that you're thinking about things in looking at society. So you get different streams of thought within that. Like you can get very, I guess you could say egalitarian sociology, or you can get very like conservative hierarchy promoting sociology. It really depends on the angle that you're promoting. But yes, study of society is a good overarching catch-all term.
And what that really means, it's, you know, you can really go into that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's the sociology aspect.
Yes.
Okay, next would be the counseling aspect, which I guess is really a big part of your life right now.
Yes and no, but we can talk about that. Just to define it, so counseling is a practice. It's more or less, and there's so many different methodologies for this, but more or less helping other people process and experience their lives in a way that is healthy for them.
Oh, okay. So it's generally, I guess, a way to help others.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, if you think of the term counseling, that's kind of what, you know, it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the historical or traditional way of counseling is 2 people sitting in a chair and one person talking about issues that they're experiencing.
They both sat in one chair?
No, Justin.
No, there's like two people sitting in a chair. I was like,
sorry, well, they're sitting in separate chairs.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Because I just like, I mean, like this could go back, like,
yeah, that's maybe some other kind of counseling.
It probably is. But yeah, we can, it's there if anyone needs it. Yeah, okay. So it would be like a one-on-one kind of.
It typically, I mean, you can get group counseling and stuff, but
of course.
I believe the historical basis for it in Western society, at least, in like the counseling that we know today that you study in school, it was that one-on-one talking with each other.
Right. And I don't think asking for the etymology of counseling would be really that important, but yeah. Counseling. Yeah. It is what it means.
I think it's important to recognize history, because when you recognize history, what you're able to do is recognize what's become normal in our society. And when you can do that, then you can recognize that there are different things that also exist in the world.
So when you kind of go back to the origins?
Yeah. So like when I talk about counseling and its Western origins in our culture, what I hope that enlightens the listener to is the fact that there are many other ways of like working through process for yourself, or like learning about different things in life, etc. And counseling is just one of the methodologies out there that can be helpful for working through challenges that one is experiencing.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like, I mean, I guess you just said it best. It is a method. It's not the only one.
Precisely.
Right. Okay. I guess we'll move to the third one is dialogues. That's what you...
Dialogue. So dialogue and communication was the minor. To be honest with you, I don't even know how to describe what that was about. Just like you talked a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what dialogue means, right?
Exactly. I think maybe the best way to describe it is to describe the program that it was a part of. So the core component of that was the semester in dialogue at SFU.
Semester in dialogue.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I remember you were doing that for a bit. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a pretty awesome program as far as post-secondary.
Was it a program or was it like its own like on your own hours kind of thing?
Maybe a good way to describe it. So it was a cohort model.
Okay.
So you're in a class with all the same people. They've applied for it, and I mean that sounds similar to many other classes, but the difference with this one was that you're there for all day, every day, 5 days a week
for a semester.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was like a job that you paid to do.
I guess so. Yeah. What have I done with my life? Paying to do a job.
Yeah.
But
that was the term. 5 days a week, every day for.
Exactly.
Was it like a spring, summer, winter, or?
It runs at SFU during each of the terms. So the summer term is a little bit shorter, so it's 2 months as opposed to like 3.5.
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do?
So the biggest component of the semester in dialogue, it was learning how to facilitate dialogue and communication, basically. So each semester has a different topic. Mine, let's see if I can remember the exact title. Religion, Spirituality, Contemplative Inquiry, and Social Action.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, right?
But you just like
I told you about that piece of paper I can wave around.
Yeah, I mean, if you can wave that around, you imagine you have all the other pieces of paper you can wave around too off the top of your head. So it was just basically it was a teaching you how to facilitate dialogue.
Yes, exactly.
With different topic and different communities and different groups.
Yeah, and I mean the topics that we covered were centered on the specific theme of that semester. So again,
right.
I won't repeat that title, but you know what it is.
Yeah, that the one that you did.
Exactly.
Okay, and how was that experience for you?
That was positive. Yeah. So I really liked the more engaged method of learning. So you're actually doing things creatively rather than just doing that learning that we were talking about.
Yeah,
before.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, and I think that a really powerful thing that honestly, in my opinion, most post-secondary is going to be transitioning to with time and is already in the steps of transitioning to, is having more community engaged initiatives that integrate with academic initiatives.
Definitely.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get there's a term called the ivory tower of basically like people being very caught up in what the academy or what the academic institution is doing and being disconnected from the world around them. But different forms of community engagement are the counter to that, so that what you're doing in academia stays relevant. Right.
It's like you're actually working with the people that you might end up working with, as opposed to just like the theory and the...
Bang on. Exactly.
Yeah. No, and I definitely encourage that as well. I think it's a way of stepping forward. It's relatively new, I guess, that kind of approach.
Yeah.
Community driven.
Yeah, I mean,
and we're in like 2018 now.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. Yeah, I mean, it's funny if you look at Western society, ever since the Industrial Revolution, we've had this very like regimented mode of doing things.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look at the history of education, it's more so been something designed to teach people how to behave than how to learn.
Like, okay, kids, sit with your legs cross-legged.
Exactly.
Forever.
So if you're in school and you don't like it, there's a good reason.
Yeah.
Because as a human, you're not built to like it. You have to be trained to be okay with it.
Conditioned,
yeah,
if you will.
Exactly.
Okay. What do you know about the current system of education with elementary schools nowadays?
Shoot, it's not one that I can speak to with a lot of authority, just because I don't know too much about it. Is there anything in particular that you're wondering about?
Well, I mean, this is just something that came up to me, or just was brought up to my attention the other day, was that I think it was like grades 1 to 4, 5 or something don't receive letter grades anymore. They receive descriptions on their performance.
I believe that's correct, but check your sources, people.
Yeah, I mean, this was just heard from my boss, who was an educator.
Right.
But yeah, she just telling me that like they don't get A, B, C, or D or whatever. It's just like the student, blah blah blah, whatever. It's a description, right?
Yeah. And I mean, to speak to the educational model in Japan, I know at least for some schools there it may be more widespread, but in the lower grades, quite similar. You don't get graded, and what the intention is that teaching positive relationship. I have a higher opinion of that school system than I do of traditional Western society.
With the letter grades?
Well, more so just the way that things have been structured, because again, it was kind of like in the Industrial Revolution, workers were being forced to like be in jobs that weren't necessarily great for them. This is why unions came up eventually as a way of negotiating working terms so that workers could have decent circumstances for themselves.
Decent working conditions.
Exactly. But the same energy, I guess you could say, in Western society that created those unsavory working conditions, that it was the same thing that created school systems.
Oh.
So, of course, there's been a lot of effort over time to make that good. And, like, when you walk into schools nowadays, most of the teachers there want to inform positive experiences for their kids, right?
I should hope so. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, ideally.
Exactly. So, it's that same positive intention that, in my opinion, and I say this without being, like, super well studied in it, but just being kind of aware of it through having done a little bit of research. But in Japan, to my awareness, the school system there at the younger grades, they don't really do any grading, but the emphasis is more so on proper relationship.
With other students or with the teacher or?
With both. There's actually
people around them.
Yeah, there's a great documentary that I can refer folks to. I believe it's called Children Full of Life. Children Full of Life. Thanks.
Just to plug that.
Yeah. So that one follows, I unfortunately don't remember his name, but a very profound, well-known Japanese educator who works with elementary school students. And he's
in Japan or here?
In Japan.
Okay.
In Japan, and he's celebrated for his ability to do that positive teaching of right relationship with kids.
And you feel like that is like a good way of teaching or educating?
Gosh, I mean, there's so many good ways to do things, but I think he's a good example of one of them.
There's no optimum here. There's only outcomes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to get too. They'd say in academia postmodern, like there is no truth, but I suppose that.
But is there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are certain things that work well for people. Like when people experience a sense of community, a sense of connection, etc. Those things generally inform positive experience, and what that fellow in that documentary, Children Full of Life, is able to do is inform those types of relationships.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of it myself. The whole educational field from, I mean, looking at it now, compared to back when I guess we were in elementary school, it's just like completely different perspective.
It is.
And things have changed over, many years.
Yeah. I totally agree. I don't know the details, but when I speak with friends of mine who are teachers, it's like, yeah, we're doing all this different stuff, and I'm like, whoa, that's neat.
Yeah, I was like, why wasn't that around 20 years ago?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, considering the time, it's really progressive time. I mean, I guess with this generation and the.
Yeah, I think that I'm not really unique in my aspirations towards like wanting to make the world a better place and all that. Like maybe I'm a little bit more hardcore than some folks, but
you could say that.
But yeah, I think that like most people that I speak with have positive intention, and everyone does that in their way, you know.
Not just with education, being a teacher, but with whatever it is you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's tough. Like education, I would say, I don't want to say it's an easy environment per se to create like positive differences, because being a teacher is a tough job. But I suppose I think of that versus like being the CEO of a company within the capitalist marketplace that we have. And there's certainly very different pressures that you have, you know, and less room to move, shall we say.
Well, I mean, if your goal is making money at whatever cost, then
it's an easy environment for you to engage in, because that's how it's built.
I mean, again, like it really depends on the CEO you are, right? Like, if that is your strict goal, then there isn't a lot of wiggle, because you gotta stick to what works, right? Regardless of the cost.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it anyways.
And, you know, to speak to that, corporations are very much designed for it. You do see exceptions, but generally speaking, corporations nowadays are set up so that there's shareholders. I'll just speak in an explanatory fashion for this for folks who aren't.
Sure.
But basically, you have shareholders. They buy stock from the company, and that stock is basically, you can look at it as the collective financial value of a company. And so as the company becomes more successful, like they sell more products, etc., the value of that stock goes up, because it's like, if
it's commodity, right?
Yeah, like a very easy example. Let's say that there's 10 stocks in the company, and that company has an overall profit of $10. Then that stock is worth $1 a piece. On the flip side, if that company now makes $20, then each stock is worth $2 a piece. Exactly. So that's the basic logic of it. And so from that, CEOs have a pretty substantial responsibility to be making their shareholders richer, because that's basically how the whole thing is constructed. There is a balance to that, because what you see is that where companies are being abhorrent in like the environment or to their workers, then people hear about this and people stop buying their products and their stocks go down. You know,
it's a boycott.
Yeah. So there's that, and then it also just comes to like not being able to functionally do things anymore. You know, like people opt out of working there. People opt out of giving consent to companies for being able to like do things in their communities, etc. And so yeah, there's a few different layers to that. But generally speaking, companies are successful when they're able to have a good relationship with communities, a good relationship with their clients, and then still be able to be profitable for their shareholders.
And I think that's like the ultimate balance, right? If you're able to maintain that. Yeah,
a concept in business and sustainability circles is the triple bottom line. So you've got...
Is that what's called the triple bottom line?
Yes, this is the concept. So it's the triple bottom line. So there's the one traditional one, of course, which is making money, but then there's the social bottom line and the environmental bottom line. And so,
not even the ethical, but I guess that's kind of social. But
yeah, I would say that the ethical is taken by the environmental and social there.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you seem pretty well informed with those concepts. Did you go to further schooling or did you was this on your own time and you just investigated all these ideas?
I find that when you go to school, it shapes the way that you think about things. You know,
I hope so.
Yeah, certainly we hope so. And so yeah, once you've shaped your thinking process in that way, then you start picking up information here and there in different ways. I mean, it must have come up in school, but I do also do research here and there on my own. I'm just out of interest in using that tool set of different ways of understanding.
Mm-hmm. So you do read.
I do read.
Okay, that's one way of putting it. Because I would never go out of my way to. You never know. Maybe one day I'm feeling I just do the whole research on whatever. But it just seems like such a departure from what you did study, which was sociology, counseling, and dialogue.
Yeah, remember, sociology is the study of society, so it's like anything under the sun that has a social element to it is something that sociology would study. So, but granted, my counseling and dialogue background do have more of an individual bent to it. Mm-hmm. For me, the direction that I've gone in my life is that I saw that there was need for I guess, service on that individual level, so the counseling stuff that we were talking about before.
Right.
And originally I was thinking of going that route.
Into counseling.
Exactly. But the more that I engaged with different social institutions, the more that I saw, like, hey, you know, there's a lot of well-intentioned people in the world who are capable of interacting with people on that one-on-one level and doing good work with that. And what I saw as a more challenging, I guess, level of society is this more macro stuff, so like government, etc. And so I kind of started putting my life in that direction. Sociology as a discipline was very much about that, and then that's why I went to BCIT, as we were talking about earlier. I did a business management diploma when I was there.
Okay.
And so yeah, I was kind of in that spirit of being able to engage in the bigger picture stuff, so looking at business or government, etc.
Okay. And does that kind of bring you to where you are now, or?
Yeah, I'd say so. So I work in post-secondary education, but I've also volunteered for a variety of nonprofits. So I am at present just on the very end of my position on the board of the Camp Vercombe Society.
The what?
It's called the Camp Vercombe Society. I highly recommend it. It's a great place. So,
maybe we'll get them to sponsor the show one day. Sorry, what, Camp Vercombe?
Camp Vercombe. They're on Gambier Island. So they're a summer camp for kids.
Is it the same camp you've been working for back in the day?
So yeah, I went to that camp when I was a kid, and I got looped back into it by participating in the David Suzuki Foundation's Camp Suzuki that took place in 2015. So it was quite serendipitous for me. And then after that, and the volunteering that I did for Camp Suzuki, that's part of the program, is that you do some volunteering for it.
Right.
So after I did that, I ended up on the board for Camp Vercombe.
And you've been there ever since?
Yes, with the exception that my tenure on the board is coming to an end and I'm not renewing it. So yes.
To pursue other interests, or? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I find that right now my job takes time, and then also I'm living in a community house, a collective house as they're called in Vancouver.
So we talked about a little bit about that before we went on air. Can you, again, just give a quick blurb? Collective housing versus shared housing?
Sure. So just on a basic level, in Vancouver, it's very common for financial reasons that people will live in what I guess we could call a shared house. So that's where there's a house with multiple bedrooms in it, and different people live in these bedrooms.
And it is a house.
It's a house, yeah. And then, they'll share the kitchen, share the bathroom, etc. They may or may not have a good relationship with each other. Usually, they put in some effort to having some good relations. Otherwise, it's
you never know.
Really sucky.
Lots kind of roommates out there. I mentioned.
Yeah, but so that's a general picture for a shared house. So a collective house is similar to that. It's based off of a Facebook group, or I shouldn't say based off of that, but that's certainly a big part of the energy towards it in Vancouver. Is a Facebook group
in Vancouver.
Yes, called the Vancouver Collective Housing Network, I believe. Vancouver Collective Housing Network.
Vancouver Collective Housing Network. Check it out on Facebook.
We're doing so many plugs today.
I mean, it could be a plug fest, and 1 minute and dialogue next. But yeah. So you found it on Facebook.
Yes. And so what the intention behind a collective house is, it's quite similar to a shared house in the sense that it's a house with multiple rooms that people are living in. But there's something that connects them. Like there's some...
The housemates.
Exactly. There's some intention towards community. There are some collective houses that I've seen where it's just like, we have a dinner party every day.
What? Really? And that's enough to entice you then?
Yeah, well, people have different lifestyles,
Yeah,
and, like, some
totally.
people want to live in like a very like happy, awesome community space. Like having dinner parties every day sounds awesome, right?
Hey, I mean, if it works for them, then yeah.
Exactly. I've seen other collective houses that have more of a bent towards people being artists or something like this, So anyways, I brought that up just because I'm part of a collective house now, and so I appreciate the shared sense of community with that, and I enjoy putting time towards that.
So it's been a pretty positive experience for you.
Yes, definitely.
Sorry, I didn't ask you. I asked you a while ago, like, how long have you been doing this? Or living within community housing?
So I've lived in this house that I'm in for 4 months, I believe. So yeah, I'm certainly not the most experienced of folks who've done this. I know some people who've lived in environments like this for like decades. But yeah, I've been here for 4 months. Before that, I lived by myself in a basement suite.
How does that compare?
You know, the phrase that I like to use is that I'd rather live by myself than live with other people, but I'd rather live with people who I have a good relationship with than live for myself. You know? So yeah, I've lived in shared accommodations. I wouldn't say that they're terrible, but it's like you're not really on the same wavelength as people, you know? Yeah. And that, compared to that, living by myself certainly has some virtue. But yeah, you know, for me personally, overall, because like, I mean, I'm introverted, but I also do enjoy interacting with people, and the shared house.
We're social creatures.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, a shared house, or pardon me, a collective house, using the terms that we're using, a collective house is much more appealing than living by myself.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, from my perspective anyways, is that you kind of get to pick, right? Like, which kind of collective, at least I imagine so, because that's kind of what the focus is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing in Vancouver, is that so many people don't have the opportunity to choose the house that they're in.
No,
because it's like
the situation, circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that the vacancy rate in Vancouver is something like 1 or 2% or something like that.
What?
Yeah. So it's
housing crisis, people.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why prices in Vancouver are so expensive. Anecdotal fact is that Vancouver, if I'm correct, is the most expensive
city,
in North America.
It surpassed New York like a couple months ago or something.
Yeah, it was longer ago than that, I thought.
Okay, yeah, but it's the most expensive city to live in North America as of that time frame, maybe even now.
Exactly.
So, yeah, take that for what it is. Let's just go over some like really quick questions. We can talk more about what we're going on, but just like your experience with Vancouver city living, transit. How's transit? Yeah, feel free to just give like quick answers.
I like transit.
Okay, transit's good.
Yeah, I mean transit. For me, I'm always able to get to the places that I need to get to. I know that there are some areas where it's more challenging to use, but for me, because I'm kind of in city centers most of the time, it works. Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing as well is that I feel good about reading or something like this when I'm on transit.
You don't have to drive and like. I mean, you can't drive. You shouldn't drive and read a book.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, it's a trade-off, right? Like driving will get you there a little bit faster. But everyone who I talk to when they drive, especially in the city, it's like, oh, I get so stressed driving, and I'm just like, I'm having a good time reading a book on transit. So
yeah, there are pluses and minuses. Okay.
Exactly.
What about in terms of being able to just walk, as in like sidewalk space, parks. Even in the city, just being able to walk relatively safe.
Yeah, I mean, I find that the urban planning in Metro Vancouver is generally good. I mean, I use that, or I say that as a person who doesn't spend a lot of time in public space, but for all the needs that I've had with it, it's good. That probably more can be said, especially in terms of accessibility and wheelchair access,
right,
etc.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I find is that like main corridors or like highways, this sort of thing, they don't have like walking accessibility.
They do not know.
They're not
that'd be silly.
But yeah, in like different city centers, certainly, I find it easy to walk around.
Yeah, I mean, again, just like a lot of perspectives from me just traveling. I love the infrastructure here. It's like very nicely divided into blocks, and like it's relatively easy to find stuff.
Yeah, it was quite intentional when they designed it.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's just something I just hugely appreciate now. Okay, what about your experiences with social events and gatherings all around the city, local events, I guess? Have you been or experienced any?
Yeah, that's a lot tougher. Again, like being introverted, I mean, I don't like using the term just because it's perhaps a little bit too all-encompassing, but long story short, I don't spend too much time in public space. What I can say to that, though, is that Vancouver experiences a lot with gentrification. So, long story short, that's a term that says areas in the city are bought by developers. Developer makes an expensive building, so now only people who can afford more can pay to occupy that building. So, gentrification is basically the process of pushing out the poor.
Right.
So, the thing is, though, is that especially with different communities that are in Vancouver, they're not of the spirit of like, hey, let's go and make a ton of money, and beyond that as well, like I have to say, like in history, looking at different societies, you do have different elements or epochs where poor get pushed out by the rich, but there's so much like beautiful, wonderful culture out there that does not have a strong relationship with money.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And so in Vancouver, what you see are different art spaces, different community gathering spaces, and some of these are getting pushed out by gentrification.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is unfortunate because gathering space nowadays, I think it's really valuable for communities and subcultures to kind of have a space to do whatever it is they need, like gathering and stuff. Okay, last one. How about food? I know are you still sticking to your vegan diet right now?
I am, yes.
Like completely, like no sauce.
no sauce that has animal products. That's correct.
Completely.
Yes.
Like no fish, no egg, no milk.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. How's that experience for you?
So if it's alright, I'll speak to my general perspective on that.
Sure.
Which is that I decided to eat vegetarian and then eventually vegan because I was exposed to the factory farming circumstances that we basically raise animals in North America. And you asked me not to use any vulgar language, so I won't. But
no, you can say whatever you want.
Well, I won't. But
okay.
Lots of vulgar language could be given about the conditions in factory farming.
It's pretty bad.
It is,
to say the least.
So yeah, like lots of what would be constituted as animal abuse in these environments. You know? I want to say this with like some salt or a grain of salt, just in that you can find farms where animals are treated with some level of respect, so that there is that for sure. There's actually a resource that I would recommend. So the SPCA, that's the Society for the Protection and Care of Animals in British Columbia.
SPCA.
They run something called SPCA certified.
Okay.
So that's where farms sign on to be, I think it's randomly audited by the SPCA, and then the SPCA gives their stamp of approval about the quality of the farm. And if the farm is not treating the animals well, the SPCA will not give that stamp of approval. So for people who eat animal products, this is a good place to go.
If you really are adamant on having your livestock treated as well as they could as livestock.
Yeah. The next step beyond that, of course, is just having a relationship with your farmer and actually knowing where your food is coming from.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, like gosh, in cities we don't have that.
You mean like farms? Like farms?
Well, sorry, yeah, we have farms. What is much less common, especially because of the population density, is people having relationships with their farms.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
And there's that term that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, no one would eat meat. I'm sure that there's people who still would, but there is some
kind of unsettling to think about.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like if you look at humans historically, we've always had some level of meat consumption in our diets. I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, but so far as I'm aware, people generally speaking require vitamin B12, and you only get that through either eating meat, dairy, eggs, or eating dirt. So
okay. Well, I mean, you don't really have a lot of options in that case.
Yeah, so I can eat vegan because I'm in a circumstance where I can get pills.
Your B12?
Yeah, exactly. So there are B12 pills produced in a bacteria culture, which I don't look at as unethical because they have no consciousness so far as I'm aware.
Oh, no bacteria. It's okay to eat bacteria.
So yeah, I can get my B12 from that, and then I can get all my other nutrients from plant-based products.
And you look fine to me, like totally. Like
yeah, I mean it's been a learning experience because I find that eating vegan, at least for myself, and mileage may vary. People have different experiences, but for myself, I've just had to learn how to be very knowledgeable and particular about what my body needs and the foods that I need to eat to get that.
How long have you been on the diet? Like 6-7 years now?
Yeah, I mean, I had the challenges with B12 that I did.
Yes. Yeah.
So for the curious listener, there's two types of B12. One is synthetic, one is natural. Do your research on that and get the natural one. That's the one produced in bacteria cultures. So that's okay if you can.
Oh, was the synthetic one the one that was doing you not good?
Exactly. So the natural one is called methylcobalamin. There's a mouthful for you. And then the other one is called cyanocobalamin,
which is the one you should not eat.
The synthetic one. You technically can have it and it should work. The thing is that the natural one has much greater absorption. So I was having a lot of the synthetic one, but for me, my body wasn't able to absorb it very well, so I got B12 deficiency.
Right.
Yeah.
And eating vegan, it is a lifestyle. It really is, I think.
Eating meat is a lifestyle.
lifestyle choice.
Eating meat is a lifestyle choice.
It is.
So, in our society, eating meat is normative.
That's kind of the way I was.
Yeah, exactly. Society is built for that. If you want to do anything that is outside the norm, you have to learn a little bit about it. But for me, because I've been doing this for as long as I have, I forget the exact number of years, maybe that's 6 or 7. I think I haven't kept track because I had, for myself, when I was having that B12 issue, I went back to eating eggs briefly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, when you want to do something outside of the norm, you have to do some kind of research to learn how to be able to do it. And
especially since regarding your body's needs too, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, that's how you become, as they say, a trailblazer. You know, you set the path for others who also want to do that. Mm-hmm. So, like, basically for me, if someone had not done that research on methylcobalamin versus acetylcobalamin, I'd be like, I can't eat vegan.
Yeah, I guess this lifestyle just isn't for me. I guess I can't, adhere to it.
Exactly.
But how have you found, like, eating out when you ever had to downtown, or like not in downtown, just like in Vancouver in general, like with your diet? How has that been accommodating or not accommodating for you?
Pretty manageable. I mean, there's definitely the exception that I'm in a big city, which, and generally speaking, cities are designed to cater to a variety of different choices or preferences. So I honestly don't really have any issues. Like, even where was it? It was a pretty mainstream restaurant.
A restaurant, not a fast food joint.
No, like a fancy sit down restaurant, and they had a pretty decent vegan meal there. So
Milestones, Earl's, one of those.
Might have been Earl's, yeah, okay. Maybe, but don't quote me on that. Look at the menus.
But it was a decent vegan meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. So this the thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of vegetarian and vegan options nowadays.
Yeah, that's common for sure.
Yeah, it's really a thing. And I had talked about this in another podcast. Vancouver is a really bandwagony city.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so let's say there's a trend happening. You hear about it all over media. Mm-hmm. People just jump on that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's cool to have a fidget spinner, mm-hmm. right? For example. So you see this also within meal trends, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know when it started happening, but I keep always saying that Vancouver really is a melting pot for cultures, mm-hmm. because you have some people from different backgrounds, right? Mm-hmm. So with that, you have a lot of fusion in their food. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I go to any bar and grill, whatever reason, and they have chicken wings. I order chicken wings, saying, "Hey, look, they have some spicy Thai mm-hmm. and some teriyaki," mm-hmm. right? It's not limited to just like hot wings, mm-hmm. right? So what I'm getting at is it's kind of like a globalization effect, right?
Yeah, I mean, that happens in different ways. So the term that you use, melting pot, that's actually a term more commonly referred to in the States.
Is it?
Canada.
I've been using it a lot.
Yeah. So, by your authority, it's applied to Canada. Canada is more often referred to as a mosaic.
Mosaic. That's okay. It's good that we're talking about this now, so I can use this for further reference.
So the distinction between those two is that within the traditional way that the terms are used, melting pot, everyone kind of becomes the same, whereas mosaic, you get these pockets of difference that come together to create a bigger picture.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's a way better term than melting pot.
Depending on how you want to use
Cultural melting pot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. We cover that now. Okay. So we talked about all that kind of stuff in Vancouver. So let's take a quick break, and we'll continue on this discussion, in part 2, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.